welcome wherever you're watching this. I guess I'm up randomly, um, and I just wanted to express myself about why I'm up at this hour. It's almost 3 a.m. I heard arguing from my neighbors. First of all, that was interesting. Just couple arguing. Um, but then I kind of woke up a bit and just sat up and immediately felt the urge to get on the internet and scroll or listen to music, and I quickly realized that there was nothing for me here, nothing to like scroll or consume. Um, and instead of just doom scrolling or aimlessly watching something, I wanted to, I guess, just talk and create something. I think that's the battle of this world right now is creation and consumption. And consumption's definitely winning at this rate, but I don't really think there's any winning or losing in consumption or creating. It's just kind of what's more convenient for the people, and consumption's always going to be more convenient. But creation or purpose in our own lives can direct us, and we can kind of overlook silly arguments, and we can overlook the thrill of consuming and consuming when our creations become more real and more interesting than our consumption. And that's an interesting idea for, I guess, anyone to ponder. Or it's an interesting thing for someone to experience as well. When your own creations become, I guess, more like appealing or more acceptable in your own mind than consuming the internet. I think for those who don't really create in any form or are at I would say almost a disadvantage to understanding or sort of wrapping their head around the perspective of their reality and their environment. I feel like creation in any form, when I talk about creation of change, or creation of art, creation of something, an act, even sometimes a mental act or a physical act as well. But when there's not creation coming from you and decisions you make, you feel powerless. You feel like there's something missing from your world. For me, these last years, as I've just, grown into who I was born as, realizing what I wanted, or realizing and accepting my circumstance, and kind of using what I have to create what I desire, my dreams. for me, I have never been one to settle for something less than I deserve. Like, we all have our preferences, but I think there's a few things that are just like undeniable for each of us, which is like our sexuality and like our drugs. Kind of those two things alone really dictate our existences. I also think that you can't control those things for people, and those things also can dictate very heavily um, environments and situations. And there's some sort of cultures that are, or there's some behaviors that are accepted in our culture where you almost have to just accept it to kind of experience something else amongst it. Accept one thing to experience a whole other. But I think the problem is there ends up being an overwhelming sense of like conformity in certain behaviors these days. I mean, probably of all time, but I mean, for my time, right? I only know my time. I think what I've done for myself is really tried to create some sort of purpose from my life. And that can be difficult for a lot, and it's been difficult for me, but I think it's difficult for many reasons. I think creation is a surrendering to it's like surrendering our language to something else, like a new form of communication. And I think most of us are so embedded in language at times where we're unable to like process certain situations with language, and it frustrates us, creates tension, and these things can ripple across the field, the playing field of everyone's lives and the earth itself. But I guess to have a sort of overall perspective of creation itself amongst our world that's dominated by electrical advertisements, electrical businesses. Creation ends up being like the only thing to save you from it, from transferring your autonomy, or like I guess transferring your autonomy to a more mechanical existence where machines are doing the thinking for you. Machines are providing the art for you. Machines are providing your information amongst news and culture. The machine is providing your reading material as well as your movies and TVs. It's providing how you're interacting with people. It's providing how you're finding people to have sex with, um, or just look at people to have sex with. Like it's everything you can look at, kind of. But I think what this does is that it like drains us, drains up our energy. It sucks up all the water inside of us, the energy inside of us, and it gets put into this not inexpensive, this cheap form, low cost consumption, where the quantity is never ending, but the quality is like deteriorating amongst it. Yeah. Um, these are never supposed to be directed towards an audience of any sort. It's not supposed to cater towards something. It's supposed to be an expression of humanity. In this little window I was given, and I think this is what we should do amongst the internet, is really start to be intentional amongst the internet, amongst our localized people we're interacting with on a physical level or a mental level, or not a mental level, but a digital level, which kind of translates into a mental existence. But I think there's a lot of passive usage on the internet. Passive viewers, and it doesn't necessarily have a good effect on the physical world, because it's creating all of us, most of us, to just be passive in the physical world, to just consume what's there. And we're letting people create something that is taking us down a path, that's for sure. I guess I'll end it with this, because I don't know, I just have the urge to write and listen to some music. But there's a Terrence McKenna quote I read where it's like, remember that we are imprisoned in some kind of work of art. And for me, that was very profound, where, like, I started looking at everything as art, even the mundane art. Maybe it has intention, or certain reasons why it's this or that, but it also meant I could replace the image. I could replace what I was seeing with my art, or something I wanted to see or hear. But the dominating culture is art itself. Advertisements are almost the art of the future. Like, everything's becoming an advertisement almost, but it is art. But the art has lost its oomph. It's gone towards this capitalistic model. That's just a word we've given it, but art has translated its meaning into a physical thing, or not art itself, but people have used art as that sort of weapon. But I think art is the weapon of the future. I think Fela Kuti, or Fela Kuti, he was I believe a saxophone player, or a horn, maybe a trumpet player, but he was a horn player. I know that much. But he had real good music, a real interesting life. I don't know. I suggest you look into his life, but I think those two quotes I sort of just said, helps remind me, and hopefully it helps remind whoever is watching this, even if it is me in the future, that it doesn't, you don't have to be seen, but art, even on a local level, is what can change the world. It is the thing that dictates it. We must create and create and create and create and create art. We do not need to keep consuming all this fucking bullshit. And we're not, and I'm generalizing, sure, but you know what the bullshit is. You know the people who are just talking to you about bullshit, just feeding you bullshit. Their words become advertisements. They're just repeating fucking things that they've heard online. They're the products. They are the products of the services that the digital world provide. The digital advertisements provide. Humans become the automated product of repeating the cultural mantra associated with the advertisement. What if you create your own personal mantra for yourself, your own personal artwork inside yourself, your own personal perception and vision inside yourself to present to the world, not as a product or a service, but as a piece of art, as something to be looked at, not to be understood, not to necessarily talk about it at times, but to be vulnerable and surrender your existence into this expression where you're not wanting something or gaining something. You're simply opening yourself up for opportunity.